you put into AI, here's a copy of a letter I've received, help me to defend it. How do I defend myself against it? AI will tell you how you can defend yourself against it to the nth degree. A lawyer will look at, right, okay, which point should we be raising? What contribution have you made to this situation? What's the reality of success? So even though you may win, will you be penalised on cost?
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. Welcome to this episode. I am delighted to have Jo Fisher in the studio today. And Jo is a lawyer for online entrepreneurs. Such an important role. There are so many online businesses that get started without a clue about the legal side of things. And this is literally Jo's speciality. She's written the book on it. So this episode is going to be really exciting as we delve into all things that affect the legal aspects of business. And Jo sees a lot that goes on under the hood of businesses, and it's just going to be very interesting for all our listeners. So Jo, massive welcome to the podcast.
Hello, it's amazing to be here. Good to see you, Lucy.
Yeah, good to see you. So, Jo, I know that you do all the things when it comes to helping online businesses, from getting their contract straight from the get-go to helping them when they get stuck with various things, making sure they're protected, that they're operating safely online. And it's an ever-evolving field, I think, because the way businesses work online is constantly changing with technology and just nuances that come up. So I don't envy the task you have at staying on top of all of this stuff, but it is such an important aspect. And I think, just we were saying before we record it, I think I've seen a massive increase in online businesses since 2020. Lots of people went, oh, wow, we can't go out anymore. Let's go online and start something. And I think I've seen it create a wave of almost haphazard entrepreneurs who perhaps wouldn't have got into business if it wasn't such a strange time, and maybe didn't have the understanding of all of the legalities. And, I imagine that's starting to not cause, but you're probably starting to see some fallout from some of those businesses from both sides, from the business owners to the the customers and clients that they work with. Is that the case, or am I making stuff up?
No, I think you're right. It is the case. I think, there's this whole raft of entrepreneurs in the online space, which I think we're in a decline of. I think the sustainable businesses that we put the core effort into building a scalable entity are still around, but we're seeing a big drop off of people who, became successful by mistake almost. They didn't expect things to grow so quickly, and they hadn't really thought about being entrepreneurs. They were just trying to adapt to a new world, which was really tough for them as well, I think, because a lot of people started buying things online that they never would have, which made it, their businesses became really successful really quickly. And they're doing a lot of backpedaling over the years then to kind of work out, put the infrastructure in place. So I think those businesses that really did look at the infrastructure and what they had to do to make it a long-term business are hanging around. And with a great wave of new entrepreneurs who are really, really successful. But then there is also, as you say, this drop off of things where people, they just weren't really thinking about being business owners. And it was more about a hobby that became successful.
I think, I see a lot of that, the hobbyists that thought this could be a business. And some are amazing and will stand the test of time because it was a great idea that, maybe came from the inspiration of being in that strange time. But I think I suppose the dangers or the dabblers that perhaps didn't have that before, it was all very new to them. Yes, the accidental millionaires that I'm sure you see, where they are doing really well in terms of revenue, but they, under the hood, the business is not set up with those robust, not just the legals, the processes and the systems and all of those things. So I can see that a scrabble of people who are trying to clean it all up and make sure that it is all straight, and those that go, oh wow, this is too much. That's not what I signed up for. I just really enjoyed doing my thing, and now there's too many hats to wear, and it's not for me.
And that's what that time brought about, didn't it? So almost the legal system wasn't ready for it.
Mm.
set up to look at these businesses and the way they were structured and what they were doing online. So almost the legal system is catching up now with the fact that we've got this whole new raft of entrepreneurs, in the way that people are running businesses is totally different now than it was 10 years ago. But the legal system only now, I think, since around that 2020 time, it's starting to look at cases coming through the court and recognising the online nature of them. So are able to want more. I mean, there's a huge backlog in the legal system because of the way things have exploded and the way people are able to run businesses. So yeah, definitely, I think it's naturally becoming tougher for entrepreneurs who did start in that time, because the law's caught up with them. Regulation is coming in. They're looking at things in a much stricter way. Online defamation, advertising standards. Yeah, are you dealing with consumers properly in the online space? The courts are aware of all of this now, so it's making it much tougher. So that's on top of the fact that maybe you became an accidental entrepreneur and didn't really have the processes and practices in place, makes it very, very difficult. So again, it's those ones that have really looked into what is needed in the future of their business that are really going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. And you mentioned there about like the way people behave online is different, and we all started to buy more online, like you say, consumers were online in ways that they hadn't been before. And with that, we're talking particularly about businesses here, but with businesses, if they were or are, if you're selling things and buyers are buying things, obviously online, you still need terms and conditions and so on, and people are ticking boxes or even signing contracts, which is obviously a layer further in terms of more secure. But do you see a distinct difference between in the online world compared to in the physical world when it comes to that sort of sticking to contractual terms? Because we all, like you and I, are very well connected to lots of online business owners, and we know that it can be a real pain for online business owners when they put contracts in place to protect themselves and their clients, and clients will come along, they'll sign a contract for whatever it is and then basically completely ignore it like it never existed, in a way you wouldn't do if you signed a car finance agreement, or you bought a sofa from DFS and put it on a payment plan. You don't just go, no, don't fancy paying that anymore. Like, we see so much of that for business owners. But is there anything that goes on in the buyer's mind that makes it different? Like, why does that happen so much, do you think?
I think a lot of the buyers, and we've really looked at this, and we have so much of this still going on now, but it definitely than it was a few years ago. But I think the buyers, especially buying online courses, program trainings, when they're coming out of being maybe a mum at home or someone that's lost their job through COVID, so they're thinking of a new way of running a business. They're not thinking of themselves yet as business owners. They think of themselves as consumers. So when they're entering into these agreements, they're behaving like consumers. And actually, a lot of these are business relationships that they're entering into to be trained or coached. So I think that is one thing, that people are not responsible enough. They're not looking at those contracts, and they find it very easy to just think, well, I've paid a few installments. I'm not happy with it. I'm just going to stop paying. They can chase me. Will they just? You've got hundreds of people that have bought a course or program from you. Then you need to be responsible and be chasing every single one of them in the same way, and that's not always feasible. But in terms of it was just a massive unfolding of more being sold online, more being bought online, and people just not acting like responsible business owners, behaving almost, consumer-led. And as I say, the courts are taking a really long time to catch up on this. There is a raft of things that are coming through the court now where there is a bit of a grey area between consumers and business owners, because they're such small micro entities. So the court sometimes look at these agreements and say, well, actually, was this person, even though it strictly should be a business, because they're small, should the seller have considered them more as a consumer? And we've seen that over the last few years. But in terms of the way, the psychology of those buyers and sellers, I just think no one really thought about this as actually, I am a business and I should be acting like a business, and I have regulations to comply with as a business owner. There's people offline, certainly I've been in the industry 24 years now. When people were setting up businesses offline, even 5 years ago, they were coming into a lawyer's office and saying, what do we need to do? Because most of them were looking at premises. They were looking at licenses and regulation that they needed. It's totally different when you're a remote business. You don't need any of those things. Be having to have a conversation with a lawyer but you still should be. And I know that's tough. People, in terms of cash flow, even, it's not feasible at the beginning of a very small business, but it does really help you in the long term.
And that's why I know you've set up, a way to be able to help people at all the different levels. So it's like, if you're just starting, you need these things, and you've made those accessible to solo startups, because so that they don't fly by the seat of their pants with nothing and worry about it later, because yes, it can get costly, but you can still access the foundations to get started, can't you? So I think it's great that you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a group of just over 600 entrepreneurs where they can ask free questions for free all day, every day if they want to. We will service that. I do believe that the legal system should be accessible to everyone. People shouldn't be barred by cost and they are, of course. We're all running businesses and we need to make money. If you're not making money, you're not running a business. But essentially, well, there are tools that people should be able to access, where it isn't going to cost a fortune. So that free group is really there. I will be honest, shocked at sometimes how little people ask until something's going wrong. I wish more proactive. I think there's a lot of people thinking, I run a business, so I should know this stuff. I do believe we need to scrap that. I mean, I know nothing about accounts. I still need to ask my accountant every tiny little stupid question, I feel. And sometimes ego can come into play when you're a business owner and you think, I don't want to ask that question because I will look like I should have known it before. That's just not the case, is it? I mean, we're there to assist each other in our areas of specialism. So I do wish people would ask more questions, I think, and then it would avoid a lot of the issues that we see.
Definitely. And like anything, like I've been talking a lot about this lately with AI, and how in any niche, whether it's legal, health, like whatever it may be, you can only get out of, for instance, ChatGPT, what you know to put in. So you can get answers to questions, yeah. But do you know which questions you should be asking? And so if you ask the questions you want answers to, you'll get answers to those questions. But somebody like you might actually ask a more important question back, and you'll know what actually needs answering. So you can only, I say this about everything. It's like, if you wanted to, I don't know, lose weight, you'll ask the questions, but you don't know what you don't know. So
Exactly that, isn't it? And AI we're actually working on legal AI at the moment. So it is such a powerful tool. I mean, the amount of knowledge out there now, I mean, it is incredible. And when it first came, ChatGPT, when it first came around, I, like probably most people in my industry or similar industries, went, oh my Lord, what's going to happen in 5 years' time? But we've played with it and we've worked with a lot of AI. And you're exactly right in what you're saying there, in that you have to know which questions to ask. So anyone can go to AI and say, draft me a set of terms and conditions for a car salesman.
mm-hmm.
And they will give you a basic set of terms and conditions. What we've found, and we work with a lot, is you need to know what's missing to be able to get that. And if you don't know what's missing, you absolutely will not be able to use something like ChatGPT to the fullest extent to get you the protection you need, because you're given a basic set of tools. It's being able to feed back those questions then. And I think there really is a place for AI, especially in the legal system. I mean, in the medical industry, we're seeing like waiting lists being reduced massively because AI is able to look at scans much quicker than human beings. So there is such a beauty in the way the world's evolving, but also keeping that kind of hybrid model of AI will never be able to intuitively really ask you what you want from your business, what your aims are, how you want to treat your clients, what exact terms do you want in your business day to day. So legal is really an infrastructure. Your terms and conditions should be your Bible of how you will operate your business or your client contract. So you need to know exactly all the options of what you should have in these things to be able to get the best out of AI. As much as I love it, yeah, we've played with it a lot, and I'm finding it quite intriguing to see what you can get back.
I bet. And I think that you said the right thing there with hybrid. I think that's great, because actually when you have that hybrid, it's leverage. So if it's, your trained AI tool that can support your clients with you, so it's like you plus an AI element that can speed things up, custom style AI. So I think that's great. And then it's an and, not an or, which is my favorite thing. So it's leveraging and serving everyone and actually helping more people and can make it much slicker. So I agree with you. There's a place for it, but not as a replacement for the experts. That goes across all industries, really, I think. Well, most
Yeah,
expert industries.
and we'll see the impact is already starting to have on the court system. The courts getting to final hearing, it's taking much, much longer now because people are using AI to build cases rather than lawyers, which is pulling out so much more evidence and back. And judges don't want that. I mean, as much as AI and the world is evolving, a lot of our judges really aren't on the same speed of evolution. So what they're saying they don't want that level of detail. They don't want the individuals with no legal training turning up in court acting like lawyers because ChatGPT's told them what they should say. As beautiful as that can be in the right place, the backup and the way that will impact if people do start to just, or they already are starting to do it, but it's really not going to work in terms of that system because it's causing a backlog.
Something else that I think would really reduce the backlog and would help would just be if, when it comes to cases and challenges, if, especially with business to business, it's just if people can really look at and do their own work to find out what the right thing is or what the answer is. Hang on, that I'm not explaining that very well, but like, for instance, I see it where people are shortcutting or not getting the advice and then thinking that there is a case where there isn't, or there's sort of the time wasting stuff where it's like, well, you need to tick all of these boxes to actually have something that it has any substance, and people are just not, and they're throwing stuff at the courts that really it's unnecessary.
Well, again, with AI, if you put into AI, help me defend, here's a copy of a letter I've received, help me to defend this. So how do I defend myself against it? AI will tell you how you can defend yourself against it to the nth degree. A lawyer will look at, right, okay, which points should we be raising? What contribution have you made to this situation? What's the risk of success? So even though you may win, will you be penalised on costs? Is it likely to cost you more than you are making at the end of it? Is this really valuable or in the interest of going through a court? And courts still want to be mediating. They want them to have followed pre-action protocol, which means you have to have engaged in some form of process before you get to court, which isn't always the case. I mean, that can, if you are acting for yourself, the courts won't penalise you necessarily for doing that and for not doing that yourself. But still, you've got to be really careful in that AI will give you what you ask it for. So unless you are really saying, and again, be detailed with the prompts that you're putting in. I'm not saying don't use it, but also get it cross-checked. A lot of the work you can reduce. Nobody, and certainly lawyers, I think historically we've had this reputation of the clock is ticking. We want the only people that win in this situation are the lawyers. Certainly in the last 10 years, that's not the case. So we're moving away from a lot of the clock ticking. It's more fixed fee. It's more looking at outcomes based. Will a lawyer even take your case on if they don't think there is any benefit? We do a cost risk or cost benefit analysis on every case that we take on. Again, we're not just using people for money. Use AI as a way of giving you both sides of it, and then maybe speak to a lawyer and say, right, okay, could I have an hour of your time to review what I've put together? I think that hybrid model of making sure, as with all industries, how can this work with us instead of against us? And people not thinking that they can just go and do it themselves. I mean, I'm not here to say don't use it, because I don't think anyone in their businesses is not using it these days. We've got
Yeah, and I really love that. I think that it is important. It's like, it's going to happen, people are going to do it, but it's just understanding what is actually going to do for you and what could be missing. And I think that's important, because whether you're, business to business or whether you're business to customer, you've got to be responsible. If you're in business, you've got to be responsible. And I think, at either side, and this is what I think people miss. We were talking before about dismissing contracts like they just don't matter. And I think, well, businesses take time and invest in making sure those exist, and to then just be like, yeah, but I may have signed the contract, but I'm not bothered. Or I know lots of businesses see payment plan defaults, but sometimes it's not a payment plan, or it's a payment plan, or it's something that it's paid over a series of payments, but people almost treat it like a membership. I'm coming out of this now, so I don't need to pay. It's like, well, no, the whole amount is payable. It's just over a period of time. And and things like that. So I think being responsible for that, knowing what you're signing and agreeing to. I've done it where I've gone into things as the buyer and signed a contract and kind of gone, I don't think I'm getting the most from this.
Yeah, totally. And
But there's a process. I still paid it. I still paid it. I reached out. I said, I'm struggling to get the benefit from this right now. And I'm not going to, I agreed to pay it. That's that business owner's thing. I'm not going to just not pay it, no matter what my opinions or thoughts might be. But it's that responsibility piece. But I did reach out to go, could we tweak it slightly? Or could we do it like this? So I actually feel, and most people will be reasonable and go, yeah, okay, well, look, how about, what if we take this out but add this in, and then will you feel like that's better value? Well, I don't know. I just think people should talk and have conversation and be reasonable from both sides. And that's what I think is a real shame that people don't do.
yeah, I agree with that totally. I had this conversation yesterday because a lot, when we think about it, people ego comes into play a lot, doesn't it? So if somebody starts to say to you, I'm not quite happy with something I've bought, especially when your business, so if we think about it from the business owner's perspective, this is something they created. It's their baby, it's their passion, it's their purpose. And this is the evolution of entrepreneurs. It's not just another hairdressers on the high street. It's people leading with heartfelt messages and all of these. When they feel that they're being attacked in their business, ego can come into play and they'll want to fight. I think what we need to do, especially for those businesses that are hanging around, and they're the people that are doing it, in all honesty, every single business will have a complaint. It's not a reflection of you as a human being. It's not a reflection of you personally. It's your business offering a service. And if somebody isn't happy with it, you have a duty to investigate and you have a duty to take on board with what they're saying. So having a complaint procedure that you've thought about before you even get to the point of selling, one will kind of take the heat out of that so that you become aware of the fact, yeah, this is going to happen. This is the process we'll follow when that happens.
Yeah.
What I always say to my clients, if someone does make a complaint, if that's ranting on WhatsApp or in Messenger or even on a Zoom call, take a step back and just say to them, could you put this in an email to me? Because often when people have to sit back and really process their thoughts and think about a complaint that they're making, it's not just about it doesn't feel aligned or it doesn't feel right. It makes them think about so what did I buy? What am I not happy with? Am I being delivered the service that I was told I was going to be delivered? And to articulate that in a proper email, which is a formal complaint, is a lot more difficult. So some people won't even take that step. If they do take that step, then you can have in your complaints procedure, and we would always say that you want a period of time to be able to reflect on that, to pass it to someone in your team to look at it, to cross-check. So respond to it. Thank you for your complaint. We take on board all of these things really seriously. We'll now come back to you within the next 5 days or the next 14 days, whatever you think it would need, with a response to that complaint. It completely takes the heat out of the situation. And then more of a formal process, but actually what we see mainly in the online space, and I say that because it's where I've spent the last 5 years, is it's the ranting, it's the WhatsApp messages, it's the bad mouthing, it's the damaging reputation, it's the triangulating with other people to try and get other people on board with the way that they see things. And actually, we've got to be really careful with that. So there's cases that have gone through the courts even just this month on online defamation and the way people are behaving and saying things. And it's not being seen as acceptable anymore in the eyes of the law. Whereas before it was, yeah, we can anonymously badmouth people and we're not going to get in trouble for it. That's not the case now. If you're damaging, we have to acknowledge that businesses are being run online. People use serious marketing tool, and defamatory comments or triangulating or ruining relationship and reputation because you're not happy with the service is just an irresponsible and almost childish way to be behaving in the online or in the business world in general.
You still see people using it as a threat, though. I see it as they're like, I'll say this, or almost like, do this and I won't say anything, which is, to be honest, quite frankly, blackmail, is it not?
Yeah. If you had said that to someone, it would be verging on criminal activity. So, but the courts are catching up. So that called out and is being called out already. I think there's a case we Barton going through the courts at the moment that is quite interesting. So yeah, watch this space. Things are changing.
And in media, so not just I'll just moan about you to a bunch of people and randoms, but actually I'll, press, media, all these things. And I just think that, well, I think it's just ugly, but it is, as you say, yeah, actually give me money or I will take this to the media. Just, it's sad, but the fact that that happens to businesses that are often built from the ground up by individuals. And I think there's this misconception as well that often people think that those individuals, oh, they can afford it. Oh, they're all right. Like, oh, I'm only asking for this much. They've got this much, and they have this perception or this belief, but they have the very fact they don't understand all of the things about business and cash flow and costs, and they may not have tons in the bank at their disposal actually. And even if they did, I'm sure I know you and I know people where yes, they actually could afford that, but it's not right. It's just not right. So why? Yeah, that does make me cross. I see it all the time. My clients, I've experienced it. And as you said though, I in business this happens, and going into business, you almost need, unless it really is a very small, home-based, local, hobby-style business, I think if you're playing a bigger game, you're gonna have to expect that there will be legal issues will come up, and it's almost inevitable. And I think as business owners, you can take it very personally when it's your business and your baby, and you feel like, "Oh, no, I've done something wrong," or it hurts. But when you get comfortable with the fact and understand, somebody we both know actually said to me not long ago, "Oh yeah, it's just part of business now. I deal with several of those a year. It's just so you have a system for it, and it's just the way it is." And I kind of went, "That's what I needed to hear. That it's normal and it happens." And yeah,
That's so true, isn't it? And I love that we're acknowledging that, because it's really frustrating actually that the business owner has to take it on the chin and be the bigger person. But I think what happens with that is when you really prepare yourself at the beginning of business for all the things that will go wrong, and we accept that they're just an inevitable part of business, things will crop up. There will be cash issues. There will be times where you're worried about the sales that are coming in. There will be that you have. There will be disputes that you fall into. That's part and parcel of business. So prepare yourself, and putting that infrastructure in place is imperative, really. But also, I think the more we do that, the more savvy we get then with the people we work with.
yeah.
Takes away that, so you can kind of preempt the people that are going to be an issue. We've all done it. We've all worked with people that you go, "Oh God, I know this is just not going to go well," but actually, I'm got a target to hit, and I want to build my business, and all of those things are natural when we're running a business. But when you get to the point where you start to think, "Oh, I've been here and done this before, and actually it cost me 3 times more than I made in any kind of profit," you start saying no more. And by saying no, then it makes the buyers almost change the way they behave, because they know they've got to be entering into contract that people will uphold, but people won't sell to them. I mean, it's as simple as that, is it? I mean, we hear people talking about having a blacklist. I don't agree of people who we sell to in the online space who've defaulted, because there's so much more to those situations. But I think as business owners, we are acting responsibly, and we have all of those processes in place. I mean, it won't always be the case, but hopefully it will start to flush out the bad behavior, because you just won't sell to those people eventually.
You're absolutely right. You do, with experience, get more savvy with what to look out for, those sort of red flags. I think it's difficult though when so many of us as heart-led entrepreneurs, like you said, we get where we get because we see the good. We always see the possibility, the good, and I know that I've in the past sold to people where if I were to be ruthless and put my total business head on, I probably would have gone, no. But at the time, I went, oh, but I really have hope for them. Yeah, maybe, because you can, and you believe in them, and you almost want to like shower them in your belief because you can see what's possible for them. But I've learned that you can't necessarily, well, you can't control that. So even if you really, really do believe in someone, if you can sense that they're not going to cut it or whatever else, or even the sort of person that you come across where you go, this if this went wrong, it wouldn't be pretty, so I'm not getting into bed with this one. You get that kind of sense, don't you? Mm.
I think that kind of takes the responsibility away from them as well. If we We're saying, because we want anyone that enters into a contract to really understand that it's on them. They're buying something, or they're contracting with someone to provide a service or a role within a business, whether they have to take accountability. You don't sign a contract to think, oh, it might work out, it might not. I'll be able to wiggle my way out of there. Or more, yeah, people are open to conversations. And if things aren't working, there's discussions to be had. I mean, the amount of times I've heard someone say, it's unethical, or you preach one thing, but then you're trying to hold me to a contract. The two are completely separate. Because you're a head business owner, that doesn't mean that you'll let anyone off with anything because you're heart-led and you understand. No, actually being heart-led is about, yeah, upholding our morals and our ethics and making sure that our business is on solid ground. So, and if someone signs a contract, yeah, be open to a conversation, and there's ways around things. But actually, you should just let me off because you're a heart-led business owner is, I think, absolutely ridiculous. Want of a better.
It is, isn't it?
Well, because that's not fair on you as a business owner there. Because if people enter into contract, they have a responsibility themselves to be aware of, one, what they're entering into, and two, can they commit to it? Are they able to do it? Which I get is really nuanced, especially in the coaching world, because you're there to grow with, or to help people to grow. But we need to get much stricter, I think, on, yeah, is this person, it's the plan long term. Are they going to be around 3 years' time, or is this a flash in the pan? Were they signed up to something else a month ago with someone else and decided not to do that? Which makes it much, much more difficult as business owners. But I think in the long term, it will make us much more profitable.
Hmm. And ultimately, yes, contracts are usually quite detailed and thorough, but the key things that I think anyone knows when they're signing anything is, how much am I paying and how long is this for? They're the really basic things. I think then, there may be other details that you need to be aware of, but those key things are usually the very things that people are then, wait, I don't want to do this anymore. I've changed my mind. Whatever it may be. And changing one's mind often gets disguised in other complaints, I guess. But if the contract's solid and the business owner has delivered everything on contract, then they'll look at, well, you said this, but you said that. And so I'd love to explore this in terms of marketing, because I think this is so difficult, because marketing's marketing. You see a picture of a juicy burger and it's advertising McDonald's, and you get to McDonald's and you pick it up and it's like, doesn't quite look like that picture, does it? But it's marketing. And now with AI as well, visuals, pictures, video, imagery. I know there's a term in legals around marketing and what's allowed and so on. Of course, you can't out and out lie and say something that isn't and expect people to buy. But yeah, there's often disclaimers, and there's often, marketing is about displaying the best, right? Your holiday pictures, the hotel is going to take the best angles and make it look as good as it can make it look. That's called marketing. Yeah, like what are your thoughts around that? Because I think it's a common one in the online space where people go, you said this, you said this, you said this, and or these testimonials all said that. It's like, yes, but doesn't mean every single person will have the same story to tell.
Right, so terms and conditions are more important than ever when it comes to that, because actually the devil's in the detail there. But also from an advertising standard perspective, yeah, we cannot misrepresent outcomes or expectations of what people can have. Transparency is absolute key when it comes to marketing. And yeah, your sales aren't going to be as great if you're completely transparent about the actual outcomes that people are having. It's great, yeah, if you can confirm that a few people have reached this level of business after doing this thing. But the honesty is key. And I do think this is changing massively, the online space.
Yeah.
Last 5 years. I mean, if we look at 5 years ago, some of the claims that you'd see online or things people were saying, I used to sit and just think, my goodness, this is like absolute craziness. But there was just too much of it going on for the Advertising Standards Agency or the courts to be able to pick up on it. Regulation is much stricter now. As I say, that world is changing. The law is coming up. So you have to be transparent. You have to be, honesty is key. But yeah, there is always a nuance, and you're going, if a few people have reached certain milestone after doing your course, why shouldn't you be shouting about that? But there is also a responsibility on the buyers to be reading the terms and conditions, to not act, especially when, again, it's B2B. It's not someone that's buying a burger. It's someone that's buying often a business opportunity. So they need to be responsible in the way they're acting, they're entering into those contracts as well, and not be led by claims. Although essentially it's always on the business owner who's advertising, responsibility to make sure that their claims are accurate and transparent.
Yeah. And saying what's possible doesn't mean is what's going to happen for everybody. I think that, you know, that you see that a lot. It's like if you go to a personal trainer and they say, yeah, well, my clients will often do this program over 3 weeks and we see these results. Well, you do see this in the weight loss industry a lot, don't you? Or the or health industry. But doesn't mean just by paying the money and signing up for it, you're going to see those exact same results. It is subject to you doing XYZ, show up to the sessions, do the exercise, etc. So yeah, you can't expect the outcomes without the input as well. And I think that's really key to say in the marketing, but I think it's also a buyer needs to take that ownership as well.
Yeah, I mean, and some would say it's common sense, wouldn't they? But it's not for everyone. I mean, not things, yeah, that we hear. But and is that the truth? So making that claim,
Yeah.
could is different to have. So we have reached these goals. So if you know that you've got a client from here to here in a certain amount of time,
Yeah.
but your terms and conditions need to be confirming that this is subject to X, Y, and Z, and this isn't the outcome that everyone, and all those disclaimers that will apply to it. We've never had a client get from A to B within that period. To state that is misrepresentation, because you can't confirm that outcome is achievable. And I think there was a lot of that. There's a lot less of it now. People are much more honest. We can thank really serious business owners in the space of calling out a lot of the stuff. But equally, it's, yeah, as you say, it's that the buyer's got to be aware as well that it's not a magic wand. People have to do the work. They have to show up. But you can put that in your contract as well. So a lot of even when we work with coaches or therapists, we're really clear on saying to them, put the risks in here. How are people going to feel? So yeah, these modalities that we work under, but also when you're doing this work, this is how you might actually feel. You might have a few weeks where you absolutely feel like you're on the floor. You may become more emotional. You may be reigniting trauma in yourself that wasn't there before to get to the next stage. But as long as we're letting people know the risks, and we're putting in disclaimers, and we're giving them the true facts of what is achievable, I think we can. Courts then are very reluctant to go against business owners when they see that they've acted responsibly and ethically throughout.
Yeah, that's so true. And ultimately, does the contract trump? That's a good question, actually. Does the contract trump the marketing completely, or is it a bit of both? Because if you can't obviously say one thing in your marketing and then in your contract say, yeah, that doesn't happen. But I mean, in terms of, you know, your Instagram is your shop window and so on. If somebody actually is going to enter into business with you, the terms in the contract, the explicitness in there that says these things, yes, if these things, and like you just said, being really transparent, as long as it's all in there, does that typically protect a business owner? Because I know there'll be business owners listening that are curious about exactly that.
It will protect you to a certain extent, but it will come down to how that sale has been made. When did
Yeah.
the purchaser see the terms and conditions and the contract? Were they pushed in the right direction to read them, to acknowledge them, to accept them? So all of those things will be looked at. But if a business owner has put something in their marketing that they've completely gone the opposite to in their terms and conditions, again, that misrepresentation, and a court will penalise people. But add the Advertising Standards Agency as well have power to shut people down and to fight. So you've got two levels when it comes to the advertising, so the court and the Advertising Standards Agency. But certainly if somebody is signing up to something and all they've seen on a screen is a money back guarantee if you don't achieve these results within the next 7 days, before they in a set of terms and conditions, they're making a payment, I think you need to be really careful, and it's about getting, having those and subject to disclaimers, subject to X, Y, and Z, being transparent as possible. People still will buy into that. And I think people worry that by being honest, by giving all the risks, that people won't buy from them. But actually, I think the shift these days now is that people want that honesty. They want to know that something is achievable. It is there for me, but they're being honest that I'm going to have to put the work in for it. People will,
Yeah, and I think then, there are situations where you can do all of that, and yet it's still not hard. Like what you say and what people hear are two different things, and I'm sure we've all been there where we're so keen for like we want something and we're really keen and we go for it. We're not really listening to the hard bit because you don't want to hear it. You're like, yeah, that's fine, I'll be fine. And but actually, it's making sure, like, as best you can as a business owner, to make sure that people are hearing that. I know in my businesses, we go out of our way to do that in conversations with people and tell them, make sure they understand, okay, you do realize this and you do realize that. And those conversations, if it's a big sale and it's a conversation, then it's recorded, so we know that we can back it up and go, right, see, yep, there we go, that was said, and so on. In my other business where it's not quite as involved as that, we still make sure it's really, really clear so people know what's required of them in order to get the results. And it's done in such a way that should they not be listening, it can be pulled up and like gone, look, this was said, like this is here for you. Yeah, it's a minefield, isn't it? But I think it's important that business owners who aren't just dabbling, are not afraid to go into business and not feeling like too scared to be seen, too scared to be visible, too scared to market themselves for fear of these things. Because otherwise, I think that can be detrimental to a business, being so scared of backlash or getting it wrong that they don't even, move the mountains that they can move and make the difference they can make in this world. And that's what I think's a shame if people feel that way.
yeah, I totally agree. And I've been there by myself. I mean, it's tough, isn't it? Even knowing, and maybe sometimes I second guess a lot of what I do personally in business because I am aware of the risk. So there is that beauty, and I've had this conversation with other lawyers where sometimes not knowing is a benefit to entrepreneurs because you can go in, you can dive in and not really worry about, oh my Lord, everything, I'm doing this wrong and I'm not looking at this thing. And that's what I always try and say to my clients, that we're not here to scare you. It's about how can we make you do this in a safe way, or how can we do this with the awareness of the risks in the hope that none of that will happen because you've got it in the back of your mind. Because a lot of businesses get to a certain point and then a problem comes up, and before you know it, that takes them back years because they all of a sudden they're nervous to go forward again because they've gone through that initial phase where they weren't worried about anything. So it's finding that balance really between the two. But as you say, just keeping people being creative and going out there and doing their thing, because it's such a beautiful world in the way that entrepreneurs now are able to grow businesses. In the musicians are able to put themselves out there more than they ever would. But I think the ethical business owners, the ones that really are standing the test of time, are the ones that are really thinking about or have hit those bumps in the road and realised I need to shape up now and move things forward in a different way.
Yeah, sometimes you don't learn the lesson until you're faced with it, right? And then you do. But yeah, I think I really love this message, Jo. It's been great to talk this through with you because I think it's something that all business owners need to hear. And as business owners, we're also buyers, aren't we? We're usually people who are learning and growing and subscribing to things and buying things. We don't grow businesses without doing that. So everyone that's a business owner is also a business customer, and looking at how we behave on both sides of that fence. And I think it's such an important conversation to get out there. The work you do is so great for online business entrepreneurs. Your book is there. I know you've got your membership as well, haven't you? So people can...
Yeah, we've paused the membership at the moment, actually, because on an AI element. I'm waiting. Really soon. We'll be putting information out on that. The book is there in the free group, Get Legal Online. Sure, come in and ask questions there. It's free and I'm there all the times.
I love that. Well, we'll put the links to that in the show notes. So anyone listening that's like, I really want to pick Jo's brains on something, the link will be there. Grab her book as well. And Jo, a massive thank you for coming and having this honest, open conversation all about the legals of business today. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright because you were born to be brilliant.